All right, we rolling. Looks like we're rolling. Whip it out Wednesday. Fax Man is out in Nevada, hitting the slopes, skiing, putting some money down. I'm back. The Fox Den is back. The hip is bionic. I saw the X-ray of it the other day. It's amazing. In 45 minutes, they basically gave me a bionic hip. First week back on that is not so fun, I can promise you. But if you ever thought you needed to lean on your family, you certainly learn when you have something like this. Mrs. Fox, Fox Jr., young girl Fox have been huge in my recovery. And we started on a walker, went to a cane. Now we're going in-house PT, and then now we're going to out-of-house PT. So long journey with the hip. Nobody really cares. Whatever, Pie Eater, let's go with the gear. Guess what, Pie? It's season 1 because – we're geared. Watch this. Watch this. We got it piled up behind me back there. We are running pure in Blacksburg, Virginia. So Merry Christmas to everybody out there. Happy New Year. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa. Happy whatever you celebrate to you and yours. I hope you're having a good one, a safe one. Take time with family, folks. The stuff we do here is entertainment. We enjoy it. It's a side hustle for a lot of us, a little second job. But just having this time, that was really why I picked to do the surgery when I did, because what better time to do it than to be home with your family and bowl games and college basketball. So anyways, whip it out Wednesday. Fax Man is out in Nevada. We're here in Blacksburg. We're going to go for some college football, take a look at a couple of bowl games. I gave out 2 opinions last night. UCF just was trash today. Gus Malzahn he's clearly cemented himself as the worst coach there recently, and that effort was indicative of that. If you actually look at the stats in that game, that UCF game, they got thrashed 30-13, but neither team went over 400 yards. It was like 380 to 350 or something in total yardage. So certainly not what you expect to see from a 30-13 game. And there was only 1 turnover. So I'm just going to chalk that one up to the Malzahn factor. UCF's probably I know it's weird to say for UCF, right? But they're in like one of their lowest spots of late. I mean, I think anyways. And I don't think it's going anywhere real good with Gus Malzahn, but that's just me. I'm not bitter. I didn't play the game. I gave out an opinion on it. That opinion was based on my ratings. My ratings of, UCF has tanked the ratings in their last few, so you can clearly see what Plumlee just doesn't look like Plumlee anymore. I don't know what happened, injuries, whatever. So we're going to go over some bowl games. Let's see what else we got. We got the gear update. We're running pure. You guys need to look at their store because the Run Pure gear is seriously sweet. Get yourself some. It's Under Armour, as you can see. It's Richardson hats, and they're running pure with the $ on the back. So pump it up. That means I'm official season 1. I guess season 1 ends at the end of the year, so I'll be like in season 2 here shortly. So I'll be looking like a seasoned vet is what I'll be looking like. Let's see what we wanted to talk about today. So, some bowl observations. I saw somebody post, a lot of bowl games going under, a lot of short dogs winning outright. My ratings have been doing pretty good. Just, and I don't go just blindly off ratings. Obviously, so much stuff changes this time of year. I'm always going to undervalue a guy being out and opt out, even in season and injury. Certain positions I'll give a more of an injury factor to. We've talked about that before. A chunk of an offensive line, that's going to matter probably more than a running back or a wide receiver, right? A lot of times you see these injuries posted, and then when you look deeper into them, the guy has 3 catches for 87 yards on the season. It's like, why is he even on the I don't want him to be injured, but why is he even on the injury report, right? So I'm always going to undervalue that. I think when I always write down the openers when these bowls open. Obviously, I don't play openers like I do in the regular season. We've talked about that. JJ's covered that. I've covered it. Fax has covered it. It's like, throwing dice in a minefield. You just don't know what you're going to get every roll. So, I'm more likely to look at games as they approach the night before. At that point, you generally got the opt-outs figured out. You've got anybody that's going to sit out. We've seen some weird things. That was another note I had. How about a transfer portal quarterback last night and a center opting to play? So that, I was even messaging with JJ about that. I'm like, what, does that make any sense? Like, he's obviously the guy's stock's like as high as it's going to get. I mean, what's he going to do? I mean, is he looking to increase his stock? He can obviously follow his coach. Would his coach go to Liberty or something? He can go right with his coach if he wants. So that was weird. And then, of course, he dives into the end zone, donks his head. He's out. He's done. And the whole game changed at that point. So, it is a little bit of a wild card, more than it used to be, right? In the 80s and 90s, teams like a bowl game was an honor. You played in it. You wouldn't miss. It was the greatest 2 weeks of the year. I mean, you got to go to a new city, hang out. Everybody gave you food everywhere you went, swag. It was sweet. Bowls were awesome. People laugh now, oh, the Liberty Bowl, right? You would love to go to the Liberty Bowl back in the 80s or 90s, Memphis. It was a good time. I mean, that's just one example. I mean, I'm not even talking about the Rose or the Orange or the Cotton. I mean, I'm talking about any bowl, right? The Independence Bowl. That was big. You came back with a ton of swag, and you played in the bowl game, right, with your brothers. One last time. 99.9% of those guys, these are the last dances they're going to have. So I love when people say it doesn't matter. I'd love you to walk up to that senior offensive tackle who's not going to the NFL and be like, I can't believe you played in that game. It just didn't matter. Mattered to him, trust me. Mattered to him. The ratings are doing well. And let's just see, injuries, opt-outs were talked about a little bit. And the reason I'm like that is football is the ultimate team game. So, and that's why, I use team stats as part of my algorithm. I'm not a guy that can sit there and rattle off every starting quarterback in the MAC, okay? Generally, and again, a great saying, and it's a Tomlinism, but I'm going to rob it for today or use it today. One man's misfortune is another man's opportunity. Think about that for a minute, right? You're talking about some of these teams. I'm watching Arkansas over here right now against Kansas. You're a second stringer on Arkansas, okay? Maybe you're a sophomore. Maybe you're a redshirt frosh, right? And they've got a senior entrenched, but you're really close to him in day-to-day practice. But he's the senior. He probably knows the system. Probably has a little better leadership ability, right? So they're riding with him, okay? And he opts out, okay? He opts out. You have been chomping at the bit to play. And again, how many people really, when they see that a starter opted out to get ready for the draft, how many people even go to look at who the backup is? How many starts does he have? What did he do in high school if he doesn't have any starts? What kind of quality player is he? Is he a 4-star recruit that's like, oh, my God, I'm getting my first chance on national TV in a bowl game? Watch me show out. So there's a lot of undervalue in that kind of stuff, right? Everybody just assumes if you're a backup, you're not as good. And that's a fair assumption, right? We all want to assume coaches are playing the best lineups. In the NFL, that's probably runs truer because, it's a money game and you don't win, you get fired, right? In college, you can beat your rival every year, graduate 90% of your seniors, plus percent of your seniors, and have a winning record and hang on for 15 years in some cases, more than that in some cases. And there is a little more loyalty, right? 50 or 60 year seniors. I mean, these coaches have been with these guys quarter of their life at that point. So I guess the point I'm making is don't just figure every injury is a knock to that team. That will move the number, okay? You'll see numbers go from 7 to 2.5 and vice versa. And that'll be based on opt-outs, injuries, suspensions. If you're going to use it as a weight, then at least do your diligence, right? Do your due diligence and look into it and say, hey, who is this guy? Who's out? Who's in? Whip it out Wednesday, and we got 11 people watching. Where's all Fax Mafia? All the Fax family, all the people that 88,000 people that show up to watch his show and bang the comment section. I mean, got a section here for bowl questions and NCAA basketball questions, and there's 11 people watching. Sweet, real way to be faithful. I mean, Fax is out. The chump Ray is in. We're not even going to give it a look. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate the 11 of you. Anyways, let's hope you get some winners tonight. So let's see what else I got here. Yeah, that was a shocker. A transfer portal player playing when he really didn't. I didn't see any benefit to that, and that's a new thing that we're starting to see, and now we're starting to see it a little more as we get down the line in these bowl games. Just to touch base with the big bowl games. Michigan right now, when I checked it this morning, was 7.5, 58.5 TCU, and the only big change there, the total opened at 60.5, so it's been bet down 2 points. So that's sort of an indicator to me. If you're taking TCU, are you taking the under? I mean, you're taking TCU, you're taking the under. You're going to take a stand that TCU's defense is going to stop Michigan. It's going to hold Michigan down. Certainly they have to hold them under 30. I don't see any way they hold them under 30 regardless, but the total coming down seems to give me an indicator of where you can make your own judgment on that. But if the total's coming down, I just don't see that as being TCU money combined with it. Georgia 6.5, 62.5 OSU, and that game opened at 61. But that point spread hasn't moved. There's no way that goes to 7. There's just no way that goes to 7. If it does, they're going to get smashed with Ohio State money. I think it's 6.5. It's if I had to give a lean on the game, it would be Ohio State. But I mean, taking a stand against Georgia, like what do you, again, like Fax and JJ always talk about that. Sell me on that, right? Sell me on how Georgia doesn't play big, isn't ready for a big game, hasn't been playing in big games, right? Every year now is like sort of a Final Four, the matchups back to back with Alabama and just the grind fest that they've been through. They're not seasoned enough. Ohio State's, I look for that to be a good game. My ratings have Ohio State and Georgia very, very close. 6.5. If I had to, if someone forced me to bet the game, I would definitely bet Ohio State just on ratings. But to fade, or I don't see how you fade a Georgia team that looks as good as they have for 2 consecutive years and has the big game experience that staff and the players on that roster have. So that's just a little update on the big games. I'm definitely going to be, everybody that knows that I've got Michigan 8-1. I think Michigan thrashes TCU. I don't see, hey, Peter Reyes, what's up, my man? Hey, you know what? Thank you, Peter, for being here. I know that now that part's a lie. I know Faxman does not speak well of me. He doesn't speak well of anybody, does he? We always talk, when we talk on the phone, I'm like, we're kind of both got a little Archie Bunker in us, right? It used to be like an equal opportunity offender, but yeah. So, but thank you, Peter. I appreciate that. Does anybody have any bowl questions, college basketball questions? I could sit here and grind on the slate. I could go over some games on the slate for college basketball tonight. Let's see. There was one that went off earlier today. That was Tennessee. And Ole Miss in basketball. I think that started at 5. And I'm just sorry. I'm doing the double check here on my phone. That game was at 9.5, and it went down to 7.5. So that was a big mover with the Mississippi State money, or Ole Miss money, excuse me. I did take Ole Miss at the 9.5. To go to 7.5 is a big move. They are, it looks like in 15 minutes ago in the second, Ole Miss is up 4, but that doesn't mean anything in college basketball. They could lose by 40, and they could certainly lose by 10, and I could lose that one. Didn't have time, obviously, to get that out on the show today, and by the time I looked at it today or last night to put it out on the Twitter release that I gave the 2 football opinions on, it was already at 7.5, so I backed off of that one. I think actually, I think they do have stuff like that. You have to check, but I'm pretty sure they have Tervises. But if you go onto the Run Pure site, you can definitely check that out. LSU. I assume Crazy Heat. I think you're talking. I'm guessing you're talking about Arkansas, LSU, and college hoops tonight. 4.5. LSU at 4.5. I did look at this game actually. So in looking at my data, 1, 2, 3. There's some impressive things about the Arkansas team right now. It's their 2-point offense, their assist to turnover ratio, their defensive efficiency, and they're a better free throw shooting team. Free throw shooting, I only kind of factor in, when I know it sounds crazy. Free throws matter in every game, right? But in an 18-point spread, probably not as much as in a 4 to pick spread, right? In a game that we're expecting to be close in the end, I do factor in free throws. So that free throw advantage for Arkansas there, but that's a tough place to play. Crazy Heat. If you look at KenPom's got Arkansas 14 adjusted OEM of 23.26 to 9.48 for LSU. So something's off kilter there, right? And I didn't get as far as to look at injuries. Maybe something about the injuries in that game. I did not play it. I think I saw another line on that. I had it at 4. And then I saw 5.5, and now you're saying it's at 4.5, which makes sense, right? That's a no play for me, and the data points I look at lean a little bit Arkansas's way. And I'm not going to say something smelled fishy or it was a trap, because guess what? I just didn't bet the game, so I didn't get trapped by the mean odds makers, right? So if you're a Ken Palm guy, you certainly are looking at Arkansas in that game. But the difference in these two, is very little in the stats that I look at. That's one of the things I kind of, if you're 33rd in the country and you're 56th in the country in a stat, okay, that's such an infinitesimal difference, right? Versus 33rd in the country and 226th in the country. That's a massive advantage, okay? Or, looking at some of these games, 93rd in the country against 257th in the country. One of the games that I'll cover tonight, actually, Kentucky Mizzou. Mizzou has a huge advantage in one stat, like second in the country to 208th in the country. That's pretty substantial, right? But we'll go over why that may not mean as much in that game. Ole Miss -4 tonight against Texas Tech. That's going to be one of the games, Peter, that I am going to go over here shortly. So college basketball slate. We're going to give an opinion on, I think, Kentucky, Mizzou, and the Alabama game, Alabama, Mississippi State. So we can get right into actually the college hoops plays, and then we'll go into the college bowl games just to finish up everything tonight. So in college baskets, Alabama, I played it at 1.5. I haven't looked at it. I think it was right around 2 the last time I looked at it. Not a major difference. Again, Alabama has, is a really strong basketball team, 22.30 into Ken Palm. Where I see them is a definite advantage in their 2-point offense. And that's one thing I look at a lot, right? A lot of people are like, well, 3-point ball. And I buy into that, right? I mean, if a team shoots 60% from 3-point, there's really not much you're going to do about it. But when you look at the national average for that shot, some teams are better at it than others. I get it. It could be factored in more. But the majority of the shots you're going to take are what? 2-point shots or 2-point offense. There are some exceptions. Don't jump down my throat. I know there's teams that want to run and gun and shoot threes, and that's how they play. But the 2-point offense of Alabama is I really like where they're at right now. Both teams can rebound good. So that was the other thing is if you have a team that's a little better from the 2-point game, and you're equal in rebounding. There's really honestly, where's the other team going to get their runouts from if they're not, or putbacks from. And a little better free throw shooting team as well in Alabama. So I did take Alabama -1.5. I think that's the 2. You can double check it now. And let me see here. The other one I looked at was okay. So yeah, this is a game that we said we are going to talk about, and it's this is another one that I guarantee somebody's going to probably post on Twitter. It's a trap. Kentucky is at Mizzou. Mizzou's going to have a big crowd tonight, and a big home court. I mean, that's a nice home court advantage, right? It's an exciting game for the people in Mizzou, right? Kentucky comes into town. So here's just a classic example. And Mizzou, second in 2-point offense, 7th in assists in the country, and assist to turnover ratio, 76th in free throw. The advantages come, and again, here's one that we talked about, Kentucky, Missouri. So assist to turnover ratio is a way for a guy like me who doesn't want to be, Basketball Jones and know every point guard and how good he is and what his mom's name is and what high school he went to and whether he likes to handle it with his right hand, left hand, or both. I know they all handle it with both their hands. So assist to turnover ratio, that's a good one to look at, right? I mean, that's how many assists do you get versus how many turnovers you get. Doesn't that kind of speak to guard play? I mean, assists can come from anywhere, but it certainly speaks to team play and protecting the basketball. 2 things that you definitely need on the road, and then the rebounding edge also. But Missouri is a good basketball team. Now, here's what's funny. Most people that had to put a number on this game, again, looking at Ken Palm's adjusted OEM, 23.24 for Kentucky, 14.88 for Mizzou. So that's right around, 8 and 8.5. The line's at 2.5. Are you giving Mizzou 6 points of home court advantage? I mean, this is Kentucky. This isn't Southeast Missouri State. Not that they're any junk team, but I mean, it's Kentucky. What does Kentucky do? Everywhere they go, it's the biggest game. Everywhere they show up is going to be the biggest game that night, right? For that town. Every road game they play is going to be packed. It's going to be hostile. So nobody in Kentucky at this point in the season is walking into Mizzou like, wow, man, this place is packed, dude. Look at this, man. They're loud. So I thought that was a little too much home court for Mizzou. I could be wrong. I saw some other numbers, that lead to be more of a 4.5 to 5.5 point number in this game. And so I took Kentucky laying the 2.5. Again, I looked at that earlier. I didn't see any change in that. The game was pretty stagnant. But, I mean, just think about that for a minute. I mean, we're talking about Kentucky and Mizzou. Mizzou's a good basketball team. I'm not taking anything away from them. They could run them out tonight, I'm sure. Any team can run any team out on any given night. But we're talking about Kentucky and Mizzou. So if you're one of the 4 and 5 star recruits in the country, you're looking at what? Kentucky, Kansas, UNC, Duke. I mean, where's Mizzou on that list? Where do you have to go on Mizzou on that list? Where do you find Mizzou on that list? Mizzou's got a nice basketball team. If you believe in true talent, and again, we're early in the season, so can this Mizzou team, just like Virginia Tech, we talk about it all the time, they're going to get 3 and 4 star recruits if they're lucky. They don't usually get 4 stars. So say they get 3-star recruits. Well, Mike Young coaches them up. Now they're 3.5 stars. They play a few years for them. Now they're 4 stars. Now they're beating North Carolina and Duke back-to-back in the ACC title. And now they're suddenly a viable factor in the ACC with far less recruited talent, okay? They're not landing the 5 stars, the one-and-dones, the Duke NC talent. They just don't have it. Mizzou is in that same category, in my opinion. Kentucky's going to bring a lot of talent to this game. They bring a rebounding edge, and they have a defensive efficiency. They have a defensive edge as well. So I did take Kentucky minus the 2.5 on the road at Mizzou. You could also take a money line there. Can't imagine that's too high. I just feel like Mizzou's got to play. That's one of those scenarios where we look at, how can Kentucky win? How can Mizzou win? Mizzou's got to play their very best. Kentucky has to have an off night. Okay, so if they both play bad, Kentucky covers. If they both play good, Kentucky covers. If Kentucky plays good, Mizzou bad, Kentucky covers. The only way Mizzou wins the game, in my opinion, is they play good and Kentucky plays bad. Everybody's off a little break with the holidays. That should be relatively refreshed. Better athletes on Kentucky. I just think that number, hey, odds maker's smart man and make that number that way for no reason. And I don't think it's moved much. Somebody could probably tell me if it has. Happy holidays, Don Play, over from the I see you all the time on Faxman shows, Don Play. Love it that you're here. Cheers to you and thank you. Pie Eater says Alabama's -1 at Caesars and Barstool right now. Barstool's one that I don't mess with. So that's a personal choice. And you can DM me about it. I don't care. I'm not going to get into digging in anybody's operations. They're all great. Get the best lines you can get. Barstool is good for great lines. So yeah, I love Alabama at 1 also. Some of my outs, DraftKings, MGM, places in faraway places, I think is how they say it. Bookmaker. Bookmaker allows you to play the Virginia teams as well. I think it's a stupid rule. When I lived in Vegas, you couldn't bet on UNLV, Reno, Nevada, any of those teams either. It's so ridiculous. Anyways, at least they can let you bet and limit it. Excuse me. So that's that, and also Bookmaker tends to, it's weird because sometimes you'll see these ones that are supposed to be, the line makers, the cutting edge books, and they don't open numbers a lot of times as quickly as some of the ones that are supposed to be the copy and pasters. It's actually interesting to look at who opens where. But we've talked about this a bunch, folks. Get you a number of outs. Okay, you got to have a number of outs. If you just want to bet for fun. And you don't care that you lose a nickel every 6 months or a dime every 6 months or every now and again you have a winning month. Great. Like I said, it's like buying season tickets to the Ravens or Steelers or the Bengals or whoever your team is. It's something, in that case, you spend money, you have zero chance of getting it back. And you're probably going to go to 3 games in the absolute ridiculously cold conditions like Steelers played in on Christmas Eve the other night, -11 or whatever it was. They did get the dub for Franco. I did want to mention that Franco Harris, absolute legend of a man. So Steelers fan from birth. He was the Steelers running back from when I was 3, when he was drafted, to when I was, I think, a junior or senior in high school. So that's pretty much, as a kid, that's your kid years, right? I mean, it was Franco Harris, more Franco Harris, and watch Franco score again in another Super Bowl, Franco Harris. So then, that's a short part of my life now, looking back on it, right? Now I'm an old man. And more of my life has come after that, just like his has. He was such a generous man. He was such a giving man. He was ambassador of the city of Pittsburgh. He stayed with my sister in Okinawa, Japan. Her husband is now a retired colonel in the Marine Corps, was active at the time. He came to do support the troops type of deal in Okinawa. And of course, when you're a colonel, you have a pretty good living accommodations compared to anybody else. So Franco stayed with them at the time. My daughter had just been born, and while he was there, he went out, bought a card, framed it, to my daughter. Happy birthday, Frank. Just did something that no athlete today. It's so rare today to see people take time like that out of their day when they're already giving, supporting the troops, doing what he was doing to help the military over there. And then also one of the golf professionals I worked with went to a signing one time and got a ball signed to Ray G, Man of Steel, best wishes, Franco Harris. That's one of those balls that you kind of look at when he passes, and you really think about that. And first thing I did was thank that guy for that gift, because I always thanked him for it, obviously, but that day was like even a little bit more so. So that was everybody goes off on little tangents on their shows. Call that a little one for Franco. Franco Harris, number 32, will never be worn again in Pittsburgh. And yes, my son and I were going nuts when Pickett to Pickens. And then Cam Sutton on the pick over the middle that looked like it ended Derek Carr's season. He's not going to start again. He's not going to start next week. They're going to start the other Yahoo behind him. But and I look back and my wife was filming it, and I'm like, if you put that on social media, I mean, nobody wants to see a grown man cry over football. Yeah, Franco was a great guy. Ray, you're going to break down the Ole Miss game. Yes, Gary Wyatt, I am going to break down the Ole Miss game. So basketball plays, we covered Alabama. I got him at 1.5. Pi says one at, excuse me, -1, -110 at Caesars and Barstool. And Kentucky at -2.5 is at Mizzou. Those games are at 7 and 9 o'clock. So we're at 6:32. You got plenty of time. Kentucky's at 7. Alabama's at 9. Okay, we're worried about this bowl game here. So a couple of opinions tonight. And so the UNC ball game, let me just get to my bowl pages. Yes, it's a notebook. I know, old. UNC Oregon. So, my numbers had this game closer to a sub 10 for Oregon. And again, this isn't a play, a bomb play that I played. I have an opinion on the game. But it opened at 9.5 is what I have written down, and it went to 13. I'm sure there's opt-outs. I'm sure there's this, that. As a matter of fact, I know one of the stud defensive backs for UNC opted out because 2 weeks ago they were talking about trying to get him at Tech, because you would leave a team that played in the ACC title for a team that beat Liberty, Wofford, and whoever. Anyways, I know there's opt-outs. I get it. 4 points of opt-outs. UNC's really been, looks like they've been leaking oil coming down the stretch. A lot of times you can count on that month, that time off between the ACC title game and this bowl game being played today as a chance to reset. Again, neither team plays great defense here. I just, if I have to play the game, I'm definitely taking the points, because I just feel like my numbers say it should be closer to 8.5, 9. So maybe it's an adjustment of 1 or 2 for a couple players out. So maybe that goes to 10. 13.5 to me is just too big of a number. I'm not in love with the UNC team. I know Oregon obviously is a national, everybody loves. Oregon's got a great national appeal, the unis, the colors, the boom boom offense. I mean, but they also have a boom boom give up defense. So, I mean, can their defense rise up? I know that's something that they've been trying to build and change the culture at Oregon to try to be competitive when they do reach these Final Four scenarios. They've not done it yet. Oregon's defense is not there yet. And I'm just looking at my ratings right now to see what kind of, they're giving up 421 yards a game defensively. That's not something that's, going to really terrify me. And again, here's North Carolina give up a ton of points. I don't know who's going to play defense in that game. The total reflects that. It's in the 70s. I think it's at 72. It opened at 72. It's probably It's probably higher than that now. I did not look at the total. I wouldn't criticize anybody for playing the total in this game, and I really wouldn't criticize anybody for any side they took. If I have to side, I'm going to side with UNC. So, but that's just an opinion. Nothing that I got greasy on. The one I did play is this whole. I mean, I'm watching right now. I don't know what the score is. Arkansas, I think, was up last I checked in that Kansas versus Kansas game. And I'll tell you what, that was a touch of a ratings play, right? But in the end, there's just big highness on the Big 12 this year. It's like TCU played 7 ranked teams. Well, great. I mean, played 7 ranked teams. That's the SEC teams. A lot of times will do that in the season too. It just depends on how the ratings fall. I get it. The Big 12 was a little better than they normally are this year. But I mean, let's just look. I mean, how'd Baylor look against Air Force? Because that looked like that really was a how about yeah. I mean, I'm not going to get into the breakdown of single games because I think it's kind of meaningless. Every game's an individual game. But Texas Tech, Ole Miss, I believe it's 9:00 tonight. Let me just double check. I'm not giving you degenerates bad information here. Sorry, I got a lot on that book. 9:00. Mississippi, I saw last night was at 3.5. My ratings have that game closer to 9. So that was why I went with Ole Miss. Again, you can hit me with opt-outs. But in the Ole Miss game, I have an official play on Ole Miss minus 3.5. So there's obviously 3 officials that I gave out. But again, I mean, that's just, we can look at numbers on these too. I'm more than happy to. But I mean, let's see what we see here with Mississippi. Mississippi's giving up 387 yards a game. Under 400 is better than over 400. Sorry. Over 400 over the course of a season is sort of a telling stat, right? And then where's little Texas Tech at? Texas Tech, 402. I mean, Ole Miss is a better team here. 3.5 is not a big number. Opened at 4, so obviously there must not have been a ton of opt-out, whatever, transfer portal, free agency. I don't care what you call it. There must not have been a bunch of it because the line ain't moved a whole lot since open. So I would have liked Ole Miss at 4. I'm happy with them at 3.5. If you want, if you're on places that let you do it, see what you can get. If you want to buy it down to 3.5, you could tease that to 6.5 on a 10-point if you got some games you're looking at tomorrow. And I can give you probably a couple of opinions on these games because we're at the 32-minute mark. And anybody has any Texas Tech just gave the coach a raise. That's their business, man. I've seen college programs make some of the oddest decisions. You can do the math on it. I could be wrong, but it was at Texas A&M. Kevin Sumlin, I think they had to spend either 25 or 50 million to buy him out when they fired him, and I think they spent 75 million on what's his name from Florida State that's in there now. That was $100 to $125 million swing to get dude in from Florida State. How's that worked out? I mean, Texas A&M, they're rolling, right? Clearly they've won conference titles. Clearly they've been to Final Fours, right? Because Kevin Sumlin could not have done that. I mean, no way he could do that. I'm not tooting Kevin Sumlin's horn, but academic, college is giving coaches a raise. Hey, if they like what they see, and again, there's more than factors into that. Some colleges graduation rate, some colleges, a lot of different factors matter to them, and it's their business, and I really don't care. The football teams on the field this year, Ole Miss is significantly better than Texas Tech. How much do you want to, you want to get in an argument about the Texas Tech Big 12 against SEC? I'll take that. The majority of handicappers are going to probably side with the Big 12 being not a better conference than the SEC. Maybe they would, but Big 12 was better this year as overall. I haven't done the ratings breakdown yet on it. I'm not going to get into it. So congratulations on the Texas Tech football coach for getting that raise. One of the guys I really like is the guy who came from JMU to ECU, and he got a big win the other day. And his name's escaping me right now. But that guy's a good football coach, and I would keep my eye on ECU going forward. All he did was win at JMU. I mean, all he did was win. So he's starting to turn the corner when you start to get the little better bowl game, a few more wins. That ECU team could be primed a little bit. So we'll see. And the Arkansas play I had today is because, in my opinion, and I don't know if who knows if he's even coaching. I can't pay attention to half of these people that coaches that opt out and fly the coop. But Kendall Briles is the best offensive coordinator in the country. I'm sure if there was 100 people viewing right now, they'd all crap down my throat with 99 different names. I'm a huge Kendall Briles fan, to be honest with you. And he's just put up massive numbers everywhere he goes. Kendall Briles reminds me a lot of Steve Spurrier when he used to call offenses. When you would bet a Steve Spurrier team, it didn't matter if it was South Kakalaki or Florida. You could bet that there would be at least four times in a football game when they would have the ball. Didn't matter. And South Carolina almost never had a good quarterback, by the way. Quarterback would drop back. He would release it. The camera would pan down, and there would be no defender in the screen. And there'd be one South Carolina or Florida receiver. Just all he had to do was catch it, and he could moonwalk into the end zone from the 40. Four of those a game from Spurrier. Sometimes the guy got sacked. Sometimes the guy dropped it. But more than not, two of those four resulted in touchdowns, if not three, and sometimes all four. Kendall Briles is the same. Right before I went on air, I was sitting here, and I leaned back, and all I could see was an Arkansas receiver, and I didn't see any blue jersey in the screen. I'm pretty sure it ended in a touchdown. I can't quite see the score, but somebody can probably tell me. Well, I see Arkansas's got 24, so I don't know what Kansas has, but I know they had 7 at one point. Couple quick opinions. I may release some of these as official plays because, again, I'm kind of doing it day of, night before with all the stuff going on, the noise, the news. It looks like the Pinstripe Bowls tomorrow, Syracuse and Minnesota. Row, row, row your boat. My ratings show that the Minnesota line, the opening number on that was pretty good. Haven't checked it up to date, but I have Minnesota at about a 7-point favorite in that game. FSU, I like where the spread opened. I like where it went. FSU is absolutely played great football down the stretch, and this is one of the defenses that is coming on like absolute steam train. And the total's pretty high. I think it's fairly high in this game. I mean, I guess you wouldn't say so. Oklahoma, it's like this isn't your dad's Oklahoma team. It's not even your uncle's Oklahoma team. It's definitely not your big brother's Oklahoma team. They're not necessarily an offensive juggernaut, really. And FSU defense has played really good. A look at the under might be worthwhile there. And again, I'll probably release something on Twitter in the morning where I'll either give opinions on every game or some best bets. It looks like we got Texas, Washington tomorrow. It looks like it could be the wrong favorite in Texas there. That could be a brand recognition thing and a Big 12 thing, double whammy there, right? But I kind of think Washington, it should be a pick at worst. And again, I don't know. I haven't looked at any numbers for tomorrow. I've looked at I'm looking at college basketball bowl games today. I'll get into the bowl games tonight. That looks like all the games for tomorrow. But, my early leans, nothing official would be, I'd have to look at numbers. But I think Washington and anything better than a pick, obviously. And it looks like they opened at +5, so I would lean Washington. FSU's defense could, if they play right, could really shut down Oklahoma. And in Minnesota, row your boat with coach there. Syracuse, a sexy pick this year, but finished on the negative side in my ratings, which put some, obviously in the bottom half, and Minnesota finished substantially in the top third in my ratings. So 38 minutes. Hey, look how much did Denver pay? Well, yeah, exactly. Peter, great point, man. I mean, here's two things I know for sure, and I know being facts, and I know facts would never argue. I know JJ would never argue. You are worth in this world what someone's willing to pay you. Whenever I hear someone say athletes are paid too much, I say stop. So what do you make? $100,000 a year at your job? Say you walk in your job tomorrow, and your boss says, "Hey, Bill, guess what? I don't want you to do anything different. Keep doing your job exactly the same, but we're going to pay you $1.5 million." I'm sure all you homely fuckers out there are going to say, "Oh, no, you keep that $9. I'm paid more than adequate. You keep that $9. Shut up. Athletes are paid what they're worth. As long as an owner is willing to sign a contract, look at the Mets. They paid Bonilla for years. Look at the deals the Mets are doling out right now. As a Pirate fan, the Mets are going to write a huge check to Pittsburgh. As a Pirate fan, I also know Bob Nutting's not going to spend it on anything but 46-year-old Rich Hill, who, Dick Mountain is his nickname. If you don't believe me, Google it. Wikipedia. Dick Mountain is Rich Hill's nickname. That's a fact. I know it is. And listen, I don't care. Like, get what you can get. Has anybody watched football? Has anybody watched pro football? Everybody's crying. I mean, everybody's going crazy about how do you get a concussion and nobody knows, because the concussions are the black box of injuries. Now I'm going to go on a freaking rant. I can tell you that right now. Number one, on Twitter, 90% of Twitter is not people with neuroscience degrees. My niece has one. Trust me, from Duke. I know how hard it is to get one. You don't have one. If you did, you're probably not even on Twitter, to be honest with you. To brain doctors, CTE is you don't discover it until somebody's dead. His symptoms are just now starting to get looked at. Concussions aren't like a torn ACL. I tear an ACL, you tear an ACL. We both hit the ground. They wiggle our knee. They cart us off. We go into surgery when the swelling's down the next day, day 2, whatever. I get a concussion. I don't notice anything for 10 plays, maybe not till the next day, maybe not till a day and a half later. You might notice it in 10 seconds. So stop being critical of brain doctors. What do you do for a living? Answer that question first. What do I do for a living? Well, I'm a retired, golf pro. Probably don't need to be commenting on brain stuff. Honestly, stop, people. It's something that the smartest people in the world are on top of. Everybody understands it. When you watch these guys, really what you need to think about is how can you be questioning concussion protocol and be bitching about how much money they make? I mean, you're talking out both sides of your head, both of your ears. It's coming out your mouth and it's coming out your anal. So just stop. Concussion talk, stop on Twitter. You don't know. The really smart people are just figuring it out. Everyone's an expert. Pittsburgh fans were going nuts. How do you send Kenny Pickett back out there for a series and then he comes out and he's out with a concussion? You rockhead, because Kenny didn't have symptoms till that series, and guess what he did? He self-reported. How is it that a fellow player's got to stop the game to get a player out? Because it didn't look like a concussion-worthy hit to the experts looking at it. And then his player saw he was in trouble. The fact that those things are happening is where you just got to be like, cool, they are doing way more. Stop typing on Twitter about knowing about brain injuries and type, thank you, Mike Webster. Thank you to every NFL player who shot themselves in the heart so they could examine their brain. That's what you need to be typing. Don't be questioning what they're doing now. When I played, they put smelling salts on your nose and said, you're good to go, right? You're just dinged, right? And everybody's standing around you. What are you going to do? No, coach, I can't go. I'm scared that I'm going to my brain. No, you went. Look how far we've come from there. I'm not 100. We've come further than that when we haven't race relations in this country. It's better. It's way better. It's going to continue to get better. Stop commenting on concussions, people. You look like a blockhead on Twitter, and you really do. And I'm sorry. That was maybe my second round of the night. I don't care, but I get pissed at it. It's too serious of a thing that you know too little about. So we give out. That was it. That's it. Yeah, hope that one was good. I could go a little more on that. Believe me. So we did a couple free plays tonight. We gave out Alabama -1.5 NCAA basketball, 9:00 start. Kentucky -2.5 on the road at Mizzou. I gave an opinion, not an official play for me. UNC +13. There's not a lot to love about that game. To be honest, I just don't know who's going to stop who in that game and who's going to show up. And 13 points is more than my ratings say it should be, so I sided with it as an opinion. But official play on Mississippi State, Ole Miss -3.5 over Texas Tech. Okay. So if nobody has anything else, I think we're going to come back. It's tricky time in these shows right now because of game times, right? I was going to give that, and I haven't checked that Oak State game, but I was going to give that Oak State game, and I looked at it. It was an hour before the show, and I'm not going to move the show up an hour just to give one more play. I gave it to a few friends. By the time they looked at it, it was 7.5, and I was like, that's a lot of movement. So 43 minutes in, I gave a couple thoughts. I will post something on Twitter, so if you follow at Ray Greyfox, it's right there in the corner on Twitter. I will have something for you then. Other than that, listen, I want to wish everybody, in all seriousness, a happy holiday. Spend time with your loved ones. Spend time with your family. Spend time with the friends you care about, whoever it is. If you know somebody that doesn't have those people, make sure they're good. Let them know they're welcome with you. Somebody that's hungry, let them know that there's food to be had. Be a little extra giving this time of year. I'm not going to go out with the standard facts, man, whip it out Wednesday exit. I'm going to go out with a little peace, love, and joy in the holiday season. So, be a little extra vigilant for those in need right now in your community, whether it be hunger, whether it be friendship, whether it be compassion, whether it be understanding. A lot of times you take 2 minutes to talk to somebody, and it means the world to them this time of year. Peter, thank you for being here, brother. So do that. Be safe. Icy roads if you're anywhere. Princess Chachu, thank you. Good to see you. You're old school too. I've seen you on a lot of Joey Work baseball videos way back. So thank you for being here. I appreciate that. Take care of one another. Obviously, New Year's, Happy New Year. Celebrate accordingly. Celebrate the way you choose and whatever makes you happy, but stay safe and protect each other in your community. If we always look out for each other in our communities, the world is a better place. Happy New Year. 2023 is on the way. Fox Den coming back to you. I think me and JJ noon. It's definitely going to be noon Friday. We'll see if JJ shows up or not. He's got important things in his life, way more important than me and the Fox Den show. But I'm looking for him to join or come in for a couple of opinions. Nice. Gas station sushi. Get you sunburned today in Vegas. I used to live out there. I love that town. So Happy New Year. Take care of the people in your communities. One love to everybody out.